I'm going to take this problem we just solved as an example of how to move from what is your scratch paper in solving a problem to how you should present the final product. So on the screen here is the completed page that I used when I was talking through the solution of the problem. In any of these videos I'm doing, I want to stress that the page that you end up seeing is not the page that would get handed in if this was an assigned problem and I or you were doing it. This particular paper is our blank canvas, which starts off our thinking process. So if you remember in this problem, we were going to take a string 10 inches long, we're going to cut it in two, we're going to make two squares out of the resulting pieces, and we wanted the difference in areas of the two squares to be 10. And so where did we have to cut? So when I worked through the problem, I started with, a drawing of a string right there, and it's 10 inches long. And then the question is, well, where are we going to cut it? Well, I just put in an imaginary cut, and the position of that cut, could it be 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, whatever? We don't know it. It's an unknown, and so we gave it a variable name and just labeled it X. And then I drew a picture of one square and a second square, and I labeled up what the sides of those squares would look like. And then I wrote the expression for the areas of those squares. And then from that point on, I said, hey, I want the difference in the areas of those two squares to become 10, and then algebra took over, and the algebra itself kind of sprawled all over the page, and it was very messy, right? When you're doing math problems, it's like doing an English problem. You want to do a draft first and then polish it up, because if you hand this in for grading, it's kind of messy, and the instructor isn't going to like it very much. And furthermore, if you go back and refer to this later, you may not be able to make heads or tails out of what went on. So what I'm going to show you now, I'm going to do the slow reveal, ta-da, is an example of how this solution might look in a final polished form. So we would take the work that we did on the scratch paper and turn it into something much more polished, much more narrative. It still has all the same information, but it's presented in a way that a new reader could understand everything that happened. And trust me, when it's about a week or two after you've done an assignment, that new reader looking at the work is going to be you, because you're not going to have any idea what you did 2 weeks ago to solve a particular problem. So leave yourself a track record, a well-written track record of your work process. And so here we just have a more narrative story than we had on the scratch work. So let X be the location of the cut. 0 is going to be the smallest you could cut, and 10 would be the biggest. So X has got to be somewhere in between. And then I describe the two pieces of the string have lengths X and 10 minus X. The squares they form will have these as the lengths of their sides, and so these are the areas. And then here I've kind of tidied up the algebra that flows along, and it produces the final result, which is down here. There we go. And so we have a beginning, a middle, and an end to the problem, to this problem solution. There's nothing, I hope, unclear about what's going on at any step, and the question that was asked at the beginning is explicitly answered at the very end with a concluding statement right there. Now, you could go back and add in a couple of diagrams about the square if you wanted to here. That would make it take up more space. It might make it a little bit more clear. That would be a personal choice. But in the solution to this problem, right, this scratch work that helped us get to the answer, this is the final solution written in a way that makes it clear to the reader and you later on exactly what happened. You're using the scratch work as the information that goes into putting this together in a nicer form. This right here, this is what you turn in.